we're going to speed up this thing. So why is, for a sustainability perspective for organizations, what is important is that when you retain your people, when you attract talent and you keep those talents, you keep the knowledge, you retain the emotions that people have, and you have their creativity, you have their experience, and what they have is a meaning, meaning they get up in the morning and they have a meaning life of working life. And providing people that you work with a greater meaning than just working, as I said to you earlier, when you're getting up and you have a sense of contributing to something as opposed to just working, you already have achieved a lot. Sustainability, as I said before, it is not a way of doing, it's a new way of thinking. The way we think has everything to do with what we believe, and I said it earlier, and this is big. It is not our gene, but our beliefs that controls our life. And a lot of people think that it's our genes. The gene, it's important. I mean, I have blue eyes, my mom had blue eyes, that's genes. Okay. But what I believe and what I am and with the way I think and the way that I act has everything to do with my belief. So you got to check what you believe, and is it true what you believe? And when you get the right information and you get it here, you'll see things changes. So with that in mind, new mindset, think overall environmental footprint versus single product attributes. This is a lot of companies are going to address you, tell you that they are very on sustainability. And they're going to take one or two things and they're going to marketing this thing like forever. And you need to have a more holistic view of things and saying, this is great, thank you for doing it, congratulations, but holistically, if you have an holistic approach, there's more than just water and emission if we want to go to that place. By the way, while I'm talking about it, what is the upside of sustainability? Do you know? What would be, because I talk about sustainability and one person asked me that question, what's the upside? If we were living in a sustainable world, what would it look like? And the answer to that question, and I thought about it, I didn't answer the question right away because I had to think about it. And of all of what I read, a lot of things, I'm telling you that if we were to embrace this, we would be happier. I could say to you, I would promise you that you would be happier because you would not feel the pressure of achieving materialistic things, and you would feel, and by the way, you in Mexico and Latin America in general have something that the Americans have lost, and to a certain extent the Canadian as well, is the relationship, the quality of the relationship that you have with each other as a nation, as a small group, as a family, the way you treat your friends, the way you welcome, greet your friends is far different than what I see in the States. And yours is genuine. You hug a long time compared to what I see elsewhere. And that says a lot. And that is one sign of a happier life, is when you're able to hug people and be hugged. I'm a businessman and I'm telling you this, and a lot of people say, but it's so true. It is so true, and you have it, don't lose it. Don't lose it just for wanting to get ahead on the materialistic things. So an overall picture, and this is where we talk about life cycle assessment. What is a life cycle assessment? Is a measurement of the environmental impact of everything. And there is a formula that you need to go through. There is a pattern, there is a structure, a frame of work, and it's supplied by the ISO. You know, the ISO 2000, the ISO 9000, 14000? Okay. It is not a certification. ISO is giving us a frame of work on how to do a life cycle assessment. Why? Because if you want to compare, you want to buy that chair against a chair, this chair, and you want to know what is the environmental impact of that one compared to that one, the methodology of life cycle assessment needs to be the same. And ISO is giving us the methodology for creating a life cycle assessment. So, when we're talking about life cycle assessment, is to measure the impact of everything. What is everything? We're making carpet. We need yarn to make carpet. What are the chemicals that gets into the yarn? Benzene is one chemical that gets into the yarn. What is the environmental impact of benzene? How does that affect thinning of the atmosphere or the ecotoxicity? Or does it affect water? Does it affect global warming? Does it affect smog? The making of that chemical. And how much energy does it take to create that chemical? That is why when I talk about energy, a lot of people, when they're talking about a car, they say, my car makes, and later I don't know, but let's say, I'll say it in 30 miles per gallon. GM came out with a big car, big Cadillac, a monstrous car, hybrid. What good is this, really? It's just for making people feel better. Because if you look at it from a life cycle assessment, what is the energy that is being used to make all the parts, the chemistry that goes into a car? That energy is greater than the car will ever use during the lifetime of a car. And we only measure the kilometers per liter per kilometers. And in fact, that's not necessarily what we need to measure. We need to measure how much energy does it take to build the car and all the parts of the car and the chemistry that goes into. And smaller is better. So this is an EPD. An EPD is an environmental product declaration. So let me show you how it works. You want to measure everything you do. You go to ISO and you get the framework. That framework will tell you that you need to have a database that is reputable. Where am I going to find the impact of benzene? I need a database to find it. That database needs to be certified, needs to be reputable. We use GAB-4. GAB-4 is a database and they're constantly working on improving their data in it. So you need to go with this, and you need to make sure that whatever you're using is equal. I'll give you an example of this. If I'm buying nylon 6, I could buy nylon 6 in the United States, which most people do in the United States. They buy from the United States. But the impact of making nylon 6 in the United States is not the same impact of making nylon 6 in Germany. So if I use the number of Germany instead of the numbers of US, I'm tricking. I am being dishonest. I'm using something that exists but that I don't use. I use the production in the States. That's the reasons why there's organizations like EPD that you registered your life cycle assessment and it's going to be audited. If it's not audited, you shouldn't even look at it by a third party, not by the people that have done the testing. That is a life cycle assessment. Now, we could change the world so quickly without spending a dime if governments, federal government, state government, municipal government, would say to the suppliers, we're giving you 3 years, we're giving you 5 years. But in 5 years, if you don't have your life cycle assessment so that we could compare the environmental impact of your product against another product, you cannot bid on our projects. That is the case in Germany. Then suddenly, everybody needs to do their life cycle assessment. And then you are able to compare apple to apple. And you're not comparing a marketing campaign against another marketing campaign. At Interface, if you Google EPD, Interface Carpet EPDs, you will see all the EPDs of all the products of Interface. We're the only one that has, we're transparent. We need to be. Sustainability, if you're into sustainability, then you demand to have companies in front of you that are transparent. If they're hiding stuff, not good. And the only way that we could show some transparency, at least from an ecology perspective, because it doesn't measure social impact, but it measures the ecology impact, nature impact. And they're working on a social impact as well. So this is a very important. I didn't put our EPD on the slides because we don't have just a formal, just a 2-page like this. Ours is as long. And I have to admit that if you really want to fall asleep and you can't, you read the EPDs. I mean, it's numbers but if you bring somebody that knows it, they will tell you right away which is which. And in fact, today, you could put the data in a computer and it'll spit out exactly, compare 2 products together, 2 EPDs, it'll spit out quickly which one is the best one. So from different perspective, because there's different aspect to it. So you need to have an holistic view. And this is just what Think Chair from Steelcase has done. We've talked about this. When you're going to talk to people like me, companies that comes to you and say, we're into sustainability. We got it. We do this, we do that. And you say to them, congratulations. Here's the question you should ask. What's left to be done for you? You're telling me what you've done, but what's left to be done? That is the question. And the next one is, what would you like to become and when? Tell me when. Tell me that in 2035, this is what you will become. You will become sustainable and you won't have any damage on the earth and you will be socially this and that. You have a vision of what you want. If you don't have a plan and if you don't know where you want to be in time, you'll never get there. To me, that's like going and you have a brick and you have another brick and then maybe a third brick. We're trying to build the cathedral. We're not talking about the bricks, we're talking about the cathedral, what it looks like. So tell me when this thing gonna look like a cathedral. So, and I tell you, this is the most embarrassing question you could ask companies, is what's the end game for you? And when? What's left to be done? And some of them will tell you, I don't know. We haven't measured everything. That's where you realize that they have not embraced this totally. As far as Interface is concerned, this is what we've said a few years ago. Our mission zero is our promise to eliminate any negative impact our company may have on the environment by 2020. What did that give us? If you know 2020, you ask yourself, where do I need to be in 2019? In 2018, 17, 15, where do we need to be in 2013 in order to make sure we get there in 2020? And for us, we're 64% done, 64% done, and 36% to go. What does it mean? We recycle fiber. Actually, right now, on the products that you buy, nylon 6, the nylon is guaranteed 100% non-virgin material. What we do, now, we're making carpet, right? Now we're recycling carpet. We have in our mill, we have a division that gets all the carpet that comes back to the mill, and we separate the yarn, the fluff, and the backing, and we recycle the backing and we recycle the yarn. Sometimes we sell it to our yarn vendor that transforms it into a yarn that we can make carpet with.
How do you make that affordable? Yeah, profitable?
It's not.
Okay.
For years it was not profitable. We were losing money doing this every year, but we learned. Now it makes money. It makes money because the value of the nylon is higher than it was. When the price of oil goes up, that price goes up as well. Because if you want to buy virgin nylon, you'll need to buy oil to make the nylon at a higher price. So if you recycle, you're better off. So you're looking for the yarn. So we recycle the carpet, any type of carpet. Carpet that we don't make, we recycle it. It's not just the carpet that we make. All right. And the backing, all this. All right. But we're not 100%. We're 64% there. But now we don't have enough stuff. There is enough stuff, but not enough people want to recycle their carpet. There's 90 million square yards of carpet that goes in landfill every year. 90 million square yards. Even if you were to say 80 million square meter, that's a lot. And it's not biodegradable. It's going to be there forever plus a day. Why would you want to do this when you have a polymer that is so good? Maybe dirty, maybe, but you could recycle it. Why can we not do it? The industry, so we do it, and we're not the only one. But it's not enough. So what are we doing today? And I'll talk a bit about it, but we're fishing nets around the world. We have a team of people that are really looking for fishing nets, you know, the industrial fishing net, the fishermen's nets, because it's all nylon 6, and it's easy to recycle. And we pay them to give us the nets, and we ship this to Aquafield. And Aquafield themselves have a program to go look for fishing nets. Sometimes we work together to get the fishing, and we go see these people in Indonesia. The next program is in Indonesia. It's a calamity. You go there and all the beaches, everywhere, it's all fishing nets. Small community of fishermen. And they live in the most prestige place on earth, on a coral reef. Beautiful. And they're fishing. There's a lot of fish. But they're using fishing nets. And after that, they just throw it. 3-4 years, they throw it. They throw it, and it's all over the ocean. Sometimes it's washed to the shore. But a lot of time, it just goes in the ocean between the bottom and the top. And it catches fish, and the fish dies. So we want to help. We want, hey, we're helping ourselves, we're helping them. We want to recycle fishing nets. Now, who thought 20 years ago that we would be into fishing nets? Nobody. But we're happy to do it. We put a big smile on our face where we got it. And we're helping people, paying them to give us their old fishing nets. And they're happy to get rid of it. Great, great stuff. So, any questions on that?
For instance, if I don't have an office here in Mexico, so I have 1,000 square meters, and I would like to buy a new carpet from your company,
Yeah.
are you willing to pay me something for the carpet that I have? For instance, I have whatever the brand, and it has 5 or 10 years of use.
Right now, no. I'll tell you why. Because the freight that it takes and the operations that it takes to recycle it is still high. And the price that we get for it is not high enough to cover, but there will be a time coming soon that the carpet that you have, you'll be able to sell it back. Because it's going to be cheaper for us to buy it from you than buying virgin. And in our case, there is no question of using virgin. So obviously, but there's a lot of plastic. There is a ton of plastic. So it's, but not all kinds of plastic is good, but nylon specifically, very important. So there will be a time. But right now, they have to pay to get it out of the floor, and they have to pay to dump it into landfill. What we're trying to do is to beat that cost, being lower to recycle than put it into landfill. But there's some places where the landfills are so cheap because they have the land and they don't care. So it's very cheap. But we're trying to convince people to do it. It takes courage to change before the need to change. We could say this to ourselves, you know, it takes a lot of courage to change before I absolutely need to change. What is it? Essential for fundamental change is to stop focusing on the parts and start seeing from the whole. From the whole. Why? Because fundamental change occurs when we learn to see from the whole. And it's not by accident that I have that design. Because we need to fall in love again with our planet. And we need to look at each other differently as well. Because otherwise we're never going to get there. Who would not fall in love with a beautiful planet like this? Why can't we not just have that emotions about this planet and say, gosh, we got to do something? It's because we feel that we're powerless. And I'm just telling you that you have all the power. But it's a question of emotion. It's not just a question of intellect. And our minds are like parachute. They only work when they're open. And it's fun, but it's not easy to put your mind in suspension and forget all of what you've learned and let it all come to you. Is not easy to believe, and it's not easy to do. But you could do it. And when you do it, you see things. There's people that have done wonderful things when they exercise that. Einstein used to play violin. That was his way to put his mind in suspension. And he found the formula after playing violin. Went to bed, next day, got it. So I want to show you this small video, and
What did you do to my sign?
I wrote the same, but in different words.
Thanks, love.
what was I trying to do? I want to create an emotion. Rare are those who could see this without an emotion. But it's very simple. I'm blind, help me. Nobody helped them. Change the words, change the world. It's a beautiful day today, but I cannot see it. It changes everything. It's the same thing when we're talking about sustainability. We have to change the words that we use. We have to change the word that we use when we're talking to each other and encouraging each other, and not just pointing at each other, but encouraging each other. And we will not get to sustainability living without the wisdom of women. I'm lucky today, there's a lot of women. It's a good time to talk about. But it is so true. For thousands of years, we have put women in a closet with a lock and double key, double. And we'll never get to sustainability living without the wisdom of women. Us guys, we are where we are because we wanted to be in control. We were in control, and look where we are. There's a fantastic book. I'm inviting you to read it, all of you, but not just women. And it's called Message from Mother. And it's the story of women, written by a woman. And it tells you how it happened that we lost women to the power of man. And we lost at the same time the connections with nature. I don't give birth. You do. And because you do, you have a connections with nature that I cannot experience. I can imagine, but I cannot do it. So if we're making decision and you're not at the table as an equal partner, we're missing something. And the more we're going to bring women into the conversation and listen to them, the more and fastest way to get there is that. So I asked a friend, I said, change the way you think. So I asked a friend, I said, how could I change the way I think? What would be useful as an exercise for me to think and change the way I think? And a paradigm shift for inclusion of ideas of all human, of all species, of all generation. And he gave me, and I want to share this with you. And he said to me, he says, pick somebody that doesn't look anything like you when you walk, an airport, wherever, and ask yourself the question, what's in him that's in me, and what's in you that's in him? And as soon as you look at his eyes, and you focus on this, and you ask 10 times that question, what's in him? Same thing for her. What's in her that's in me? And what's in me that's in her? Ask yourself that question when you look at her. And after about 10, 15 times, you'll see we're the same. She doesn't shop on Fifth Avenue in New York, given. But what she knows about life and what she is, I am, and what I am, she is. She expressed love the same way I do. She expressed fear, sadness the way I do. You cannot train a human being. You would take a little baby, 3 weeks old, and train him to express love the way we express anger, and express anger the way we express love, we would never be successful. And we would have a messed up kid, sure, at 18. But you know what I mean? So if we see each other for what we have alike, for what we have, then we'll treat each other much better. We'll treat specifically other communities of people better. And we are so rich when we're doing it. So, and if you want to push the envelope, you could ask yourself the question, what's in them that's in me? What's in me that's in them? They drink the same water. They breathe the same air. They operate with the same principles. Same principle. They come to life. They die. They have a life. Specifically, those two, they have a life in common. I mean, they pick a partner, they stay with them. There's a lot for us to learn from nature. We're not that unique. Now, that brings me to what is the essence of the company, the organizations that you work for? And it's a very interesting question. You're in business to make money, given. That's true. We all know that. But what's behind it? What is behind it? The essence. I show this picture because that is a chair by Van Gogh. You could buy that chair probably at Walmart for $19.95 plus tax. That picture, that painting is worth at least $24 million. Why is it worth $24 million? Is because Van Gogh has been able to capture the essence of the chair. That there was probably a grandmother, a grandfather sitting on that chair telling a story to a grandchild. That's what he captured in just the chair and the surrounding. That's what people have perceived of this, and therefore $24 million later. That's what it's worth. essence is everything. And you'll see. So what is the essence of your organizations? A lot of people at Interface, they're asking us, what's the essence of Interface? They're trying to figure out what it is. And they think that it's because we have cool carpet. Cool carpet means that there is no product that we make that contributes to the ozone, to the global warming. We're climate neutral. All our products are climate neutral, no matter where they are. We have emissions. We have reduced our emissions from 64%, 65, depending on where you are. There's still left to go, but we're buying offsets for the difference. We don't buy offsets for 100% of it. That's cheating. You work to reduce it, and when you're not quite there, you buy offsets. Re-entry, it's the recycling of carpet. We call it re-entry 2.0. So a lot of people say, Interface, oh, it's because of their re-entry program. Or maybe it's because they produce their LCA, the EPDs. That's what defines Interface. That's the essence of Interface. They produce their EPDs. Blue Initiative is the fishing net. Some think that people say it's their product. Have you seen their product? I mean, they're a really nice product. And they say it's the design. By God, nice design. Where did they get those inspirations? Where did they get the idea of creating this type of design anyway? But in true, whoa. Huh? Okay, low battery, I guess.
I get it.
But is it my computer?
Oh, it's the computer.
Is it?
Yeah, it's not coming.
Ah, okay. We disconnected. Ah. All right, right here. Okay. Press OK. Yeah. All right. Good seeing. Technology. Love it. When it works, beautiful. So Interface, the essence of Interface, I'll share this with you. What's the essence of Interface? This is it. Our collective purpose. 4,000 people with one purpose. 4,000 different individuals. And when we bring somebody on board and when we look at somebody different than I am, that's your gift to our organization. The uniqueness that you are. That's how we see you. And it's our determinations to be part of the solution. And it's our way of thinking. And it's our emotional engagement. And it's working to make a difference. And it's the way we feel and act that makes us different. It's not the product. It's not the machinery. It's not the recycling. It's who we are. Who are you? What are you contributing? Can you make a difference in where you're working? We describe, and we were just in a conference and we were saying, us. And us, for us, the definition of us was not just us, but what's outside of us that needs to be part of us. We would like to invite you to be part of us and make a bigger us. And that's what we're driving to. Einstein, love Einstein. Churchill and Einstein, love them both. I mean, they're really. And Einstein said, not everything that can be counted count, and not everything that count can be counted. Write this down because that's an argument. I'll tell you why. It is a good argument. It's not everything that goes on a spreadsheet that counts, even though that is easy to count. But there's other things that count that cannot be counted. That is culture. How organization could profit from emotion and purpose. There's a book called Firms of Endearment, but I'll show you the book. Firms of Endearment. Interesting book. Why? Because it tells you, great argument for you, because it tells you that companies that does it, that understands it, their stock price is always worth more than the company in the same industry that doesn't. So they're not comparing Apple, the company, with Walmart. They're comparing within the same industry. Great read, and if you get the clients to read it, they'll understand that, whoa, their stock price is worth more because they get this. I'm on board. I want to know more about it. This is important. Organizations will have to create emotions that is not exclusively from their product. It will have to be true, the true value of the organization. What does that mean? A beauty product for women, the promise of the beauty product is beauty. But today it's not enough. Women wants to know what's in that beauty product. What is it made of? Are you killing cats and dogs to make some testing on the dogs and cats just to test this? Because if you do, I don't want to buy from you. I'd rather buy from a company that produces beauty products from a reasonable and sensitive way and natural as much as possible. You see, that is where we're going. Companies that don't get that will lose their position. This is an ecosystem. It's microorganism. By themselves, they don't shine. But they will all bring together, they shine like this. But if you find them one by one, they don't shine. But as soon as they get closer to, they get to shine. Wouldn't it be nice if we all had a smile on our face? That's our way to shining. If we all made together. But to us, for me, that's what I see. Culture engagement. You see what the client sees of you is what's here of an iceberg. It's your product. It's your service. Whatever you offer, that's your service. That's what they see. But 70% of what they don't see is what they could feel of who you are. As an organization, as an architect, as a designer, that is extremely important. As a builder, whatever you do. I was asking people, think about now, where would you rather be right now than being here listening to me? Where would you rather be? Close your eyes, 5 seconds, you're going to be there. Don't sleep on me now. All right, you got there? You're there? Okay, now, some people might have picked that. Mountain. What's in the mountain? What is it that when I'm at the mountain, fresh air. I like there. I'm different. I'm connected. I'm less stressed if I'm there. Maybe it's a lake. Because when I see water, when I see the freshness and the smell of the water, I feel better, less stress. And I'm more cooperative when I'm outside. I'm more creative when I'm there than if I'm somewhere else. Beach, of course. We all feel better when we're at a beach. Now, who picked this? When you close your eyes, who picked this? Because if there's someone that picked that, we need to have a conversation. All right? Because really, why are we doing this and expecting these people to be creative, engaged, emotionally engaged, etc., etc.? Now, when you talk to an owner and you say, why would you want to cramp that many people in such a short space, in a small space? You want to produce this and you were expecting people to be engaged? They won't be engaged. In fact, they're going to be working there, and the first opportunity they're going to have to go work for somebody else, they will. You're going to lose your talent quickly if you offer that kind of working environment. And that leads me to Biophilia by Edward Wilson. Biophilia, love of life, the effect of the nature on human beings. Very interesting book. And, once again, thinking of you, helping you. This is a brochure that called The Economics of Biophilia. Why designing with nature in mind makes financial sense. It's a brochure that you could download from the website. If you Google Biophilia, you'll get to that website. You see the website over there. And you could download this. And it's kind of a long thing, but if you Google it and just Google The Economics of Biophilia, it'll get you right there. And reading this, you'll realize and you'll demonstrate that financially, you're much better by investing in creating a quality of environment at work. You're going to get all that money back and more. Easy for me to say, Harder for me to prove, not anymore with this. I want to show you this video. I'm going to show you two videos on biophilia so that we all know what that means.
I think beauty is our word for the perfection of those qualities of environment that have contributed the most to human survival.
Great architects have intuitively sensed these things without probably even articulating or being able to articulate why they did what they did. It just seemed right.
Am I your way?
If you look at it in terms of its negative, that we're deprived of the opportunity to affiliate with nature, it also affects us. If we were in a room that had no windows, that had just artificial light and processed air, basically you wouldn't want to be there for very long. And if you were in there for very long, if somehow you couldn't escape from that room, you would start to have a kind of sensory deprivation.
We tend to think of cities and nature as being these kind of polar opposites, when in fact, when you think about the concept of the city as being more like a garden, full of nature, bountiful.
If you look at sustainability, it really is what impact as people and their behaviors have on the natural environment. And biophilia turns that on its head and says, what impact does nature have on us?
We grow as children by interacting with nature and learning about the world and ourselves, and cut that off. We are limiting a child's development.
We are a technology company trying to lead the way and always innovate and attract the best talent in the world. Creating a workplace that has some of these biophilic attributes undoubtedly helps
That's Google.
us more successfully adapt to the business.
My message to architects would be that if they do their job well, then they really are partners with the doctors and the nurses who do the healing.
Biophilic design is thus about creating good habitat for people in a modern built environment that satisfies their need for beneficial contact with the natural world. Environmental degradation and alienation from nature are not inevitable consequences of modern life, but rather failures in how we have deliberately chosen to design our buildings and our cities. We designed ourselves into this predicament, and we can design ourselves out of it with the help of biophilic design.
The other is like similar, very similar, but it gets a little deeper. It talks to the working place, the working environment, as opposed to hospitals and.
Improving connections to nature in the workplace can enhance worker productivity and morale, and even help recruit and retain talent. All benefits that translate into any business's bottom line.
Working in zoos, I studied lion-tailed macaques, looking at their behavior in sort of the typical zoo enclosure, which is kind of a deprived habitat. And then when they moved to the new habitat, which is naturalistic habitat, the whole intent of that was to increase animal well-being, social and psychological well-being. The animals really did better in the more naturalistic habitats. And I made a comment that we did a better job of designing zoos for animals than offices for people. And that struck a chord. That's a metaphor that people really understood.
Standard basic office design is pretty tragic. You know, you're in a box, you're in cubicle, you may not have the view to the outside. So it's one of the reasons why we see people bring plants into their space. That helps. You see images and artwork of nature. And it's intriguing when you think about buildings as analogs of that African savanna environment. One of our favorite examples of that is the great workroom at the Johnson Wax Building by Frank Lloyd Wright. When you look at that building, you see these beautiful tree columns in a savanna ecosystem. They're out there in the open space, there's separated lights coming down between them, the spreading disc on top. It looks like a savanna in there. It's a phenomenal piece of architecture. And for me, what's most incredible about it is you look at this space and the grandchildren of the people who originally worked in that space are now working in that space. It's still in its original design, and people still love working in there, and it's a 70-year-old office building. Now for me, that's really powerful. That says, wow, okay, this is some indication of the kind of power that really good biophilic design can have.
People that are working in these buildings are 82% of the bottom line. So if you cut the energy in half, that's a little bit of money. If you can improve productivity, then now you're really talking, and you can get everybody's attention. If we improve productivity in the Bank of America building by 10%, that's $100 million to the bottom line. If we save all the energy, if we use no energy, it's $6 million, $7 million. Of course, we're going to save as much energy as we can, save as much water as we can. We're going to be as creative as we can integrating systems so that they all make good sense. But our focus is on providing a biophilic environment for the people who work in the building.
We talk about recruitment into a green biophilic work environment. Now they say, now you're talking. Recruitment and retention of talent is extremely expensive, and we absolutely believe that having a biophilic or a green building helps us recruit and retain talent.
We try very hard to walk the talk in terms of having a set of core values that are not just written words on a page that you hand a new employee and then you stuff it in the drawer. It's really something we believe we want to live and breathe. This building is a huge draw. It makes a huge impression in that I think it conveys a message that we really care about the environment that our employees are working in.
The first time I came here and saw this building, it was just a breath of fresh air. I really wanted to work here because of the building.
One of the features I like best about this building is out in the cafe, we have a waterfall. It's really cool because when you go out into the cafe, you can hear the water falling down, and it's just a very relaxing sort of feel. So, you know, when you're working at your desk and you're a little stressed out and you just need to go and relax, you can go into that cafe.
We all appreciate working here, and we know that the CEO of this company cares about us in that way, that she didn't just select the lowest cost building that she could find. She put a lot of time into it, and I think as an employee I appreciate that.
Factories are normally done on the cheapest possible price per square metre, whereas this wasn't done like that. This was really done as a building to suit its purpose, which was manufacturing cutlery. When you're doing sort of detail work, natural light is terribly good to work with. I think it is important to create a good working environment. Compared with a traditional cutlery factory, it's a million miles away, and also people enjoy working there, really. I mean, we hardly ever turn over staff. We feel that the internal and external environment is important if you're involved in design. You can't be saying, oh, look, we're designing amazing products in some shed.
Miller is primarily an office furniture manufacturing company. We're building our office chairs here.
I'm going to move a little forward because I want you to get to...
And the building is really successful.
This is Google.
Daylighting strategies, natural ventilation strategies, and just feeling really nice and open. We are a technology company trying to lead the way in always to innovate and attract the best talent in the world. Creating a workplace that has some of these biophilic attributes undoubtedly helps us do that more successfully, and that's good business.
This atrium is a living being, and we often refer to a building as an organism. Organism in the sense that it adapts, that it adjusts, that it moves, that light is coming in and reflects the cycle of day and night and seasons?
Well, it feels like you're not in a building. It feels like you're outside. We found in a survey, people felt that their sense of well-being is better in this building, and therefore they feel better, and then of course they're more productive as a result.
I sometimes wonder why efficiency in our technical world is not covering beauty. Because if something is not beautiful, it probably is not efficient in a holistic sense.
So that is really what I wanted to share with you. So I went from far to get there, but it's really, if you're architects, if you're designers, it makes a huge difference for the people that are going to work in that space. And there's 2 other books, and I sent myself an email, but I don't have the Wi-Fi here, so I don't know that I'm going to get, but I'll show you those books on my iPad if I can, and I'll give you the name of it. These books, one of the book is about a language. What it does is that it looks at a space, and there's a language in that space that brings people to feel better in that space. And it doesn't have to be modern at all, but it has to do with the material you're using, the shape, the texture of the material, the light, all of it. And this guy calls it a language. He didn't want to name it, because if you name it, then you have a description of it. And it cannot be described. It can only be observed if you have the eyes to see it. So you walk in a place and you observe people, and you know whether that space offers this comfort, this feeling of wanting to be there and wanting to cooperate and wanting to talk with people, not shouting, but just talking with maybe a computer, a cup of coffee, or whatever. So there is this, and it's a science. And when you learn it, and this guy, if you read a couple of chapters, beautifully done, to the point that the book is about that thick. And he says at the beginning, if you want to just to read the book as reference and go quickly on it, he wrote in italic for you to read just the italic. And if you want to go deep, you read the italic and the regular words. So, fantastic. I'm going to show you these books at the end. But as just to say how important, and for us, we're in the carpet business. How do we contribute? Now we're making carpet that are designed to accommodate that nature in. We launch, and I don't have the video with me, we launched a product in Paris about a month ago. And they did it in, how do you call this? Yes? Yes? Terrace. It was a terrace, and where they had a garden. And they installed the carpet in the alleys, and people thought that it was part of the garden. But it was our carpet. And it was all architects being there, and they said, never thought in a million years that I would feel that way about a carpet that brings this element into the space. And the whole deal is about how can you bring something outside inside, because we feel so much better when we're outside than inside. That's the principle of it all. So we have this biophilia and just a description of it, and then we look at colors and texture, and we go through the natural beautiful texture, and then we think about patterns and we think about colors and in the groups of colors, and how one is calming, meditative, the other one is clean and cool. So we do a lot of research, and we have a lot of new products, but I'm not here to promote products. That's why I didn't bring product. I didn't bring even a book or something that looks like it, because that's not why I'm here. But I just want to tell you that when you think differently, you act differently, and then you take into consideration things that if you weren't having here, you would never think of it. So that is what it is. That brings me to biomimicry. What's the difference between biomimicry and biophilia? Biomimicry is when you're outside and you ask yourself the question, how does nature works? What can we learn from nature, and what can we emulate from nature? Not copy, emulate from nature. And we did an exercise with the woman that I'm just going to introduce. Her name is Janine Bennis, and she wrote the book called Biomimicry. She carved that name, Biomimicry. And here she is.
We're the only species that digs up the Earth's crust and then turns it into toxic waste. How are other organisms meeting their needs? And has anyone ever thought of asking them for advice? In a book I wrote called Biomimicry, I met people who are doing just that. Biomimicry is the process of learning from and then emulating life's genius. After 3.8 billion years, life knows what works and what lasts here on Earth. Mimicking these designs and strategies, their recipes, could change the way we grow food, harness solar energy, run our businesses, even the way we make materials.
We invited her many years ago. We said, we're going to hire a biologist, and we're going to ask the biologist, how does nature address a floor, the ground? How does nature create a beauty on the ground? Because basically that's what we want to be. That's what we want to do. And she told us, you know, you're trying to make carpet tile, and all the tiles needs to be exactly the same, and it looks like uniformity. You're absolutely at the opposite of what nature does. It's insane what you're doing. So she sent us in the bushes, trails, for 3 hours and came back, and we had to report to her what we saw. And one of the things we saw diversity of texture, colors, patterns on a trail. And the beauty about it is if I were to bend down and take that branch there with the leaves and move it from there to there, it didn't upset the beauty of the trail. We see rocks. We see this. They're all different, but they're leaves, but they're all different. And same goes here. Many rocks, different texture, different tones, all different. Random. Same goes here. Similarity, but not the same. Okay. We created a new design, a new way of designing carpet, where every tile is different. Every tile is different from a perspective of color, texture, and pattern. And that's the installation, that's those tiles, and that is the look. That is the first product we came out. Today we have a lot of different products that mimics this. We patented it. If you were to remove a tile, these tiles are installed randomly. Before they used to be either quarter turn or a line. Now these tiles are installed randomly. There is no bad way of installing it. The beauty is, 3 years later, you take a tile, you remove a tile, you put a new tile. Your eyes are not going to pick the difference between a new one and the old one. Why? Because from the get-go, they're not the same. That's a huge advantage. A huge advantage in the industry. We eliminated die lots. By eliminating die lots, for us, from an inventory perspective, when we make 100 square meter, we are going to produce 125 for an order of 100. What we do with the 25, we could ship it with the next order because die lots, there are no die lots anymore. Because from the get-go, they're different. That's a new way of thinking. There's a lot of, this is a good example from an architectural perspective. His name is Michael Pierce, an architect. And Michael Pierce had a contract in Zimbabwe, Africa, where during the day it is about 40, and during the night is about 15 Celsius. And he said, I need to build a building, got a contract for a large building, what am I going to do? He went there and he analyzed the termite mounts. And he realized that the termite, inside the termite mounts, could only survive if inside the termite mounts is 23 degrees Celsius. 5 degrees up and down, they die. Quite an incentive to keep it at 23. So, how did they do it? Outside 40 during the day, during the night 15, but inside constant 23. No air conditioning, no heating system. How did they do it? he realized how, he dissected this, and he realized that the air comes from the side, brings it to the earth, into the earth, and exits from the center here. So this is the building, this is the shape of the building and the system. This is Michael Pierce. This is the building that he built in Zimbabwe, right downtown. That building, you see the air comes in from the side, the chimneys are all there, and that doesn't have air conditioning, it doesn't have heating system, and inside that building, day or night, it's 22 degrees Celsius. That's biomimicry. How do you get it? How do you see it? Only if you have it from here. You cannot get it just from here. That's how he was so successful. So, we're coming to the end, by the way. I got about 3 slides, but I want to talk about this just for a second. Guys, we love cars. And when I see guys with cars like this, a Lamborghini, I'm saying to myself, what is he trying to tell me? He's telling me, I got the money and I could spend it any way I want. I have it and you don't. That's me. These people often, not always, but often, they define the essence of who they are through the stuff that they buy. They're allowing stuff to define what they are as opposed to letting themselves define who they are. We'll never get to a sustainable world if we keep stuff defining who we are. Now, since I've talked about the guys, I'll talk about the girl, and you see where I'm going. Now, you see, why do women like shoes that much, and a quantity of them? 20, 30 pair of shoes is like a dream, but 150 is really the real thing. Why? And it's not to seduce men, because us guys, I'll give you a secret. Us guys, we don't care about your shoes. So it's not for us. It is because you're dressing up for other women, not for guys. So therefore, and I'm not telling you not to have shoes. That's not what I'm saying. You could have shoes. You could enjoy the shoes and the matching bags. Could be Prada, could be whatever, but don't let that define who you are, the essence of what you are, because that is our problem. It's allowing stuff to define what we are. So with that, I'm giving you this. Oh, I like that one. If I dream alone, and I'm the only one who dreams, it's just a dream. But if we all dream of the same thing, it's the beginning of a new reality. And that is true in your firm, that is true in a society, that is true around this world. That if we were all to imagine and dream about a better place, a more sustainable way of living, we could make it happen. And this is just a video on purpose.
It is perhaps the most important question we have ever asked, and possibly the most difficult to answer. Trees, as we know, produce oxygen. Birds and insects pollinate the plants that feed us. We know that some animals need plants to survive, and some animals need animals. But why are we here? Giant whales couldn't survive without tiny plankton. Giant redwoods couldn't survive without insects. But could life on this planet survive without us? What is our purpose? Why are we here? Maybe it's because of all the species that share this world. We're the only one with the power to protect the entire planet. The only one with the power to protect every species on Earth, including ourselves. Every species is here for a purpose, and each of us has a part to play.
These are some books that I was telling you about, but not the 2 books but I will give you the title. These books, by the way, this one here, Urgent Message from Mother, is what I was telling you about. Fridtjof Capra, The Web of Life, absolutely a must-read. It is to, I'm going to leave that presentations to the university, so if you want to visit this afterwards, they're going to make it, I'm going to try to find a way to get the videos, because it doesn't come with the, if you give your presentation, the video don't work. So I have to give the video separately. This is Firms of Endearment. That's the book. And the subtitle is, this is How Organizations Profit from Purpose and Emotions. And in there is the book that tells you that companies that have adopted what I just said, their stock price is much better than those who don't in the same industry. So Ishmael, if you haven't read Ishmael, The Biology of Belief, hard read for the beginning because it tells you a bit about the cell and the energy in the cell, but that gives you the scientific background when I say you're not your DNA, but you are what you believe. That is that book. And Finding Our Way with Margaret Whitley, fantastic individual leadership in the new science, beautiful book, College of Commerce, Paul Hawken. Biomimicry, Power versus Force, great. It talks about the consciousness of people, the level of consciousness of people, and they categorize, very interesting. So those are The Necessary Revolution. This is Bob Willard. This is Bob Willard, very nice guy, a good friend of mine. Natural Capitalism. I don't have here the latest book of Paul Hawken, but Rest on Rest, beautiful. So this is the last slide. Aren't you happy? But thank you for your attention. Thank you for being so focused on and engaged in what during that presentation. I know it's a bit little long, but it's what it is. So thank you, and I'm hoping that you have learned something, and I really wish that you would make a decision in joining us in this movement, because I think, I know we need you. So thank you so much. So let me just throw at you the book that I was telling you about. I'm just going to, oh, I turn off this thing. It's the Pattern of Language, one of them. The title is Pattern of Language. And it's Alexander Christopher. And there's if you go on Amazon.com and you type this title, you'll get the 2 books, but you'll get also a series of books that he did in cooperations with others. Matter of fact, one of those 2 books is in cooperation with others. Yes, I'm going to camera, books, and okay, The Timeless Way of Building by Christopher Alexander. And the other one is The Pattern Language, Christopher Alexander, but Sarah Ishikawa, Murray Silverstein, and a couple of other people. So if you go on Amazon.com, you Google this, you type it, and it's going to bring you these books. I tell you, what do you think of these books?
I like very much. It's one of my favorites.
Really, I don't know why it's not in the course.
Spanish here.
Really?
Yeah.
Much better. Much better. But you'll feel it when you read the book, the first book, especially The Pattern of Language. One book is the philosophy, and the other one is more like the practice of it. And it's not just for a building, it's for a city, it's for everything. Fantastic.
The Timeless Way of Building?
Yeah. It's, one is The Pattern Language, Town Building Construction, and the other one is The Timeless Way of Building. And The Timeless Way of Building is Christopher Alexander by himself. But if you go to Amazon, you'll get it in Spanish, and you'll get the other books as well. And I think it's a great read. So, and I want to tell you something. I come here every year, once a year, and I do about 30, 32 speech a year. But the one place that I like to come is here. Why? Because it's people like you. Sometimes I go to places, a university, and people like just like, whoo, you know, no emotion, no nothing, you know, you don't know if you're connecting. But you guys, every year, I don't know what it is, if it's in the air, the water, or something, but you're engaged. You're really engaged, and I really, really appreciate it. So thank you. All right. Avez-vous des questions? Ah, français. If you have any question, we're in Vegas. Yes?
How do you draw the line? You gave the example of 1906 and you said it's more sustainable to buy it's produced in Germany than it's produced in the States. But at the same time, I think of the carbon footprint when you take all that items from Germany.
That's right. You don't buy, no, my point was people cheat when they do their life cycle assessment. They're taking a better reading, but they don't buy from Germany. They buy from the US. They should take the US results and not Germany. That's why you need to have an auditor to audit the system to make sure that people don't cheat. But in fact, you don't buy from Europe to buy yarn here. You buy the yarn here because the freight is terrible. And so, and it's not sustainable. I'm with you. Yeah, yeah. But that's the point that I was trying to make. Any other question? All right.
How did you get this philosophy for yourself? When did you wake up and say, okay, I need to do this?
Yeah.
This is going to be my essence.
It was a big party the day before. I was really not, no. I think that if you have kids and you watch them grow and you are knowledgeable about the ecosystem that's failing on us, we're failing on them. Bear in mind, it's not the lakes and the river and the mountains that are in jeopardy. We are. We think that nature is in trouble. That's not nature that's in trouble. We are in trouble. And I got a sense of that. But Ray Anderson helped me a lot. Because really in 1994, prior to 1994, I didn't get it. But when he got it, I got it. And I've been with Interface 24 years. So I knew Interface before, and I knew it when I was there when we made the transition, and I'm there since, and I see, and he passed away, and then, but the company still goes in the same philosophy. But the learning was from him, and I started to read, and then I got hooked up with Al Gore, and then I went to Canada with the TNS, and then I hooked up with the Santander Bank in Brazil, and I was part of their advisory group for sustainability. So I've learned a lot, and I'm listening to people, and then we chat, and I really got it. And try to explain this to my kids, and they just, oh, Dad, really, you and your, but now they're 20 and 19, now they're getting it, they're talking about it, and they're reading about Interface, they're reading about me, they can't believe it. I ordered a book, no, not a book, it's something for my camera, just a filter. And I get a text, and the guy says, you just order something on Amazon, a filter for your camera, and your name, you say that your name is Claude Oimet. Are you the guy that makes some speeches on sustainability? And yeah. So am I going to get a deal? I didn't get the deal, but I have a new friend. Yes. We're good? Yes.
I'm assuming your company, is it in Dalton? Is that where it's at?
No, it's in LaGrange.
In LaGrange, okay.
South of Atlanta.
Oh, wait, no, I actually went to college at Carrollton. So
Oh, yes.
Georgia, so I know.
Yeah.
Have you, as far as like your company in LaGrange, what kind of influence have you had on the? Does LaGrange have a lot of carpet companies as well, or is it just
Two.
Okay. So have you had influence on the other carpet company, or
Gosh,
as
yes.
far as the local government and the opinions
Yes.
of the people there?
Yes. The influence on the industry, when the rest of the industry saw that we were making headrow on the sustainability and we were connecting with people, we were creating mind share. and people were responding with market share, with buying our product, I tell you, that changed a lot of them. So they wanted to become suddenly really engaged in sustainability. Some just for facade and some others more deeply. LaGrange, yes. Two of our engineers were, in order for them to come to work, they were passing in front of the landfill. Okay. And they were looking at that thing, and they were the chimney, you know, where they burned the methane. Yeah. And they said, we could help the city recuperate the methane, distribute the methane because it's in the industrial park, the landfill is in the industrial park. We could supply methane to the industries in the city will make money. Okay. It will extend the life of the landfill by 15 years. Okay. And we're all going to get energy from a cheap sources. So the engineers got with the city, and they cooked up the whole process, mechanical process of how to recuperate the methane. We had a different piping system in our plant because methane is pretty corrosive and you don't want to, so it was for the boilers. And it worked beautifully, and it's still working today. I mean, it's, so we do that in LaGrange. If you're talking Europe, it's a different reality, it's a different thing. We do in Latin America, it's a different reality. In Brazil, for instance, we do more of reuse than we do recycle. Because when we lift the tile, they're still good. The color, people are tired of the color, but really the product itself is it's still good. So they clean it and they resell it. And they don't pay anything for the product. So they're reselling, and it's an NGO kind of organization that does that. And sometimes they recycle it. And they sell the top with the fiber and the backing to two different chain of companies. One is making auto parts, because there's a big industry of automobile in Brazil. So they have different streams, and we're helping them, and and India is different. Every region is different. All right, yes?
Do you know any company in Mexico that is trying to improve their process by your company?
No, I don't know. But it's not because they don't exist. It's because I'm ignorant of what is possible in Mexico. But one thing is that I know, you have here a PhD in life cycle assessment in Mexico. She's a wonderful individual, very knowledgeable about life cycle assessment. And so the knowledge is here. The companies sometimes just need the will. But I think that when you meet people that are a certain age, 60, let's say, and you're asking them what's their legacy, and you could talk to them about it, and then suddenly they may want to come up with something. All right?
What's the name of the expert in life cycle assessment that you were talking about?
I don't remember, but you?
I can't remember.
No, but he has her name. I sent him. That's it? That's it. One of them, but she's very good. Very good. I met her in Montreal, as a matter of fact, years ago. But boy, she knew her stuff very well. So, all right. Well, have a nice week. Thank you.